And testing 1, 2, 3, 4. We should be live really quickly, and it seems that we are. All right, gentlemen, and any women that may be present, coding tends to be pretty male dominated, so I wouldn't be surprised if it is just men in this live stream, but that's fine. Welcome to yet another live stream. So what we're going to do in this video, let me just check my the gain of my microphone, make this a little bit louder for you guys. Okay, so in the last live stream, we looked at GetX once again, and we looked specifically at get.find, get.put, and I was telling you that that's how we're going to connect everything. So as a result, in our local data interface, for example, rather than needing to pass in those variables into the constructor like what we might be doing before, I just use get.find. And again, that's typing this with the box in between those triangular brackets or whatever is it's optional, but I like to do it anyway, so yeah, that's just me. But anyway, in this video we're going to actually try to compile that this code and see what we can do with it, because you guys will remember from last time that I did not have my API key. I had forgotten to download this separately when I switched my computers, because of course things like API keys are confidential information, so we should not be uploading these things to a public GitHub project like what this thing is. So yeah, that's why we couldn't compile it last time, but this time I took care of it, so let's see what happens. And to be fully, like 100% transparent, I'm fully expecting a couple build errors, because it's quite unusual, in my opinion, to just build everything 100% correctly without running anything the first time. So yeah, let's see what happens. So we're just going to say Flutter run, and I'm going to try to save some bandwidth or some RAM, whatever, by using that -d Chrome flag. What that's going to do is it's going to open up the application in a Google Chrome, like it's going to compile it to the web version, so I don't have to have a separate emulator running, which in my opinion will use less resources. And let's just see if anybody's joined us. We have some playbacks, that's very nice too, but it's going to go up to a lot higher, because I know most of you guys like to watch this back in the future rather than joining live, and I don't blame you. Okay, so as I expected, we can see we have an error, and let's see what this error says so that we can fix it. Run app has been called, for example, during. So I forgot to do this. Widgets Flutter bindings.ensure initialized first. So they just said service bindings default binding messenger was accessed before the binding was initialized. So you're not always going to need this in your apps, but it turns out that in my app I do need this. So what I'm going to do, and the error message you guys can see was very helpful. It told me the exact line of code I need to include. So what many people would do would just go to main.dart and insert it here, right? And that would be one way of doing it. And guys, again, I literally just copied this line of code from the error message. As I always tell you guys, that's one of the things I really like about Flutter. The developer experience is so much better than something like React Native. The guys over at Google really did their best to make it quite intuitive, to make it quite easy to code in this framework and using this language. What I'm going to do instead is go into my inner app, because my inner app has all these things anyway, and just put this right here. Now, of course, in doing this, I'm going to have to import this, and I'm just going to import the material, because that's what I'm using everywhere. And now notice I have another issue in that state is being imported from both material and from my state controller. So what I could do here is just import this as controller, and then this becomes controller.states equals controller.states. I could do that, but I'm not going to, because quite frankly the name states is an absolutely terrible name, and I do not know what I was thinking. I was thinking that I want something nice and easy for you guys. Of course, that's what I was thinking, but I am no longer thinking that. So what I'm going to do is go into my controller, wherever that is. Yeah. And sorry, I organized this a bit differently than how I would normally organize things because I was trying to simplify things for you guys. And I'm going to rename this from state to, let's say, search controller, because that's what it is. In most apps, you'd end up having different controllers for different things, right? And this is the one which deals with the actual searching. So I'm going to call that search controller, and as a result, this one needs to be renamed. And search controller. And one minor thing, you might have been wondering, so in my states, I don't know if you guys saw that, I used Fn and F2. Fn to access my F2, which is the same as doing rename symbol here. That's the F2 thing. And normally if I do that, it should update the name for me everywhere. It should update it here in the app as well. It should have turned this from state to search controller. Why did it not do that? Well, for the same reason as why it didn't recognize state by itself, because it didn't know if this was the states coming from my presentation slash states, or if this was the states coming from my Flutter slash material dot. So again, that was why it was a bad name, and that is why I have renamed it. Okay, so there's that. Let's try recompiling it, see what happens. Another error. Missing plugin exception. No implementation found for method get application documents directory on channel plugins.flutter.io/path provider. Now, what is happening here? What's up with this? Do I have a comment over here? Jim says, hi, do you use getCli? Jin, sorry. Actually, Jin, I have not used getCli myself, but maybe I will do so in the future. I haven't seen any real reason to use it, but yeah, you know, we'll see. Okay, so back to what I was saying. What is going on with this error here? Well, keep in mind that I'm compiling to a Chrome window, right? I'm not using a real emulator. Well, Path Provider does not actually work very well with web. It just doesn't work. We need to do something different to do the web stuff. So there are different ways of getting around it. What we could do is there's a package we can import which will check if it's a web, and then I can give it a different path based on if it's a web browser, like what I'm doing now. The other thing I could do is just compile it to a Android emulator or a iOS simulator. You know, I'm using a Mac, so I could access both of them. But I'm not going to do that because I know that the only place I'm using it is here in my Hive. And if I remember correctly, the Hive package is made to work with everything, including web, we can see over here. So I expect them to help me out. So if I go over to the documentation, which I don't think I did this properly last time. So here we go. I can either use hive.init, which is like the general way of doing it. This is what we could do to work on different frameworks. Or I can just use hive.init Flutter to do this in the Flutter world. And here, I am just using this as a Flutter application, so there's no need to overcomplicate things. If you're wondering why we have hive.init, like why don't we just always use hive.init Flutter? I know that Dart is used primarily for Flutter these days. However, there is also Angular Dart, and some people really like it. Personally, I haven't used it because I've been doing almost everything in Flutter, and anything I haven't been using in Flutter, I've been doing in either React or Node.js. But okay, so I'm just going to copy this line of code, and I'm going to delete this over here, and change this to this. Now, this is going to give me an error. Because this hasn't been imported yet, and if I remember correctly, to get init Flutter, I need to be using Hive Flutter rather than just Hive. So let me double check if I have Hive Flutter, and I do. I also deleted the version number to avoid any potential conflicts. That was pretty smart of me, if you don't mind me saying. And normally I would control click here and get that auto suggest, but I know for some reason init Flutter does not like to be auto suggested. So I'm just going to import it manually. Package hive underscore flutter slash hive underscore flutter dot dot, and there we go. Now that I've done this, this works. And since I can do this, now I no longer need path provider. So I'm just going to delete this. And in fact, I can remove it from my dependency because that was the only thing I was using it for. So now if I restart it, there we go. There we go. Now it is working. So now we can put something in here and hit that search button, and it says navigating to search results, but nothing happens. And why is this happening? Or why is it not doing anything? Well, it's because we haven't actually done anything with it yet. And guys, this is why I don't like having my text so big here. I don't have a large enough screen to see everything. So you guys might remember, or you might not, because it was a long time ago. Over here, our previous onPressed, I didn't want to build out the entire thing. So I just left it as an anonymous function which just said print navigating to search results rather than doing anything more complex. And also you can notice that my flat button is deprecated. I should probably change this, but I don't really want to go over that kind of stuff now. In the future, I will make a video about Flutter 2.0, but I don't want to overcomplicate this one. I want to focus more on the GetX stuff. Okay, so in my GetX controller here, my search controller, this is going to have, I need home screen as well. This should have a search movie function here and get movie details function here. Right. And one thing I want to do is make this a little bit more easy to see what's happening. So I'm gonna just add some print statements so we can see exactly what the application is doing. So in search movie, I'm gonna say print running search movie in local data source. Here I'll say print running cache search results in local data source. And over here in get movie details, I'll do the same thing. Running get movie details in local data source. And running cache movie details in local data source there. And in fact, I'm going to delete running just so it's a bit clearer. I don't want to overcomplicate this. I want to make it easier to see what's happening. So in my opinion, the less words, the better. Okay, there we go. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing for the remote data source here. Search movie, and I'm going to use a different symbol here so it's even easier to see what's happening. Remote data source, like that. Just going to copy this, get movie details, like that. Okay, search movie, search movie, and I'll use I don't know what symbol to use here. This one, this is fine, in search controller, like that. Get movie details in search controller. Let me just check how this is doing. Jin says thanks, you are very welcome. And Kuldeep or Kaldeep says hi. Well, hello to you too, and I hope you are enjoying the live stream. Okay. I'm sorry guys, I only have one screen. That's why I need to actually navigate back to this to see any chats. So if that is not open, I can't see what you guys are typing. But okay, so back here. Let's go ahead and connect this to our home screen. So the first thing I'm going to do is use that get.find to actually give my controller to my home screen. And the reason I'm giving it to my home screen is so that I can actually do something when I hit this search button. So first thing I need to do is here, final, what did I call it? Search controller underscore search controller equals get.find search controller. And as I said before, guys, you do not need to type your data, but I always do. I've had some comments before telling me that I don't need to type my data, but yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to change this function into something a little bit different. Specifically, what I'm going to do is first I'll run the search controller.get movie details, and let's look at how it was here. And search movie takes string title and int page. So let's look at my text form field. What is my text form field actually doing? It's my decoration, it has my style. Yeah, if you guys don't remember, I did this application quite a long time ago, so I didn't remember all the details. Okay, so I'm going to make a few modifications to my app. I'm going to change the text form field to a text field, and then I'm going to give it a controller of search controller dot title text controller value. Of course, this doesn't exist yet, which is why it's giving me an error. Then here in my, and I need to rename this, it's gonna confuse me. I'm gonna rename this to search controller dot. Yeah, okay. And here what I'm gonna do is say, and actually I don't need dot value because it's not gonna be an OBS. Or is it? We'll see. Text editing controller, and I want to call it title text controller equals text editing controller. Okay, and we'll just pass in the controller here. And let's just really quickly, and this should be giving me an error. It bothers me that it doesn't give me an error. And the reason it doesn't is because this property title is not required, which it should be, because, well, actually, I just shouldn't be passing it in, should I? What do you guys think I should do? Because what I'm trying to do here is use this. So I'll get to this stuff afterwards. I'm going to delete that RX string there because I'm going to use the title text controller instead. And what I'm going to do here is use title text. That's going to look really ugly. So what I'm going to do instead is just say final string title equals title text controller dot text, like that. So in so doing, I'm just pulling out the title from the title text controller, like that. And get movie details uses the ID, so I don't need to do that. Okay, so we're gonna just recompile this to see if it still works correctly, because sometimes you might get strange behavior here. And type something here, this works, Star Wars, I can search for that. And one thing I'm gonna do is just print the title so we can see it's getting the correct value here. And recompile it, and try Star Wars, search, and it crashed. But let's see what happened before it crashed. So it went to get movie details in the search controller. And to get movie details, it should have gone to search movie. So that was completely my mistake. Try once again. Okay. So it goes to the search movie search controller, which is what we expected. Then it gets the title correctly, Star Wars. So you guys can see I hooked up the text editing controller in the GetX controller. So in so doing, I don't need to make my home screen stateful. Yeah, plus I can keep that title in my state even after I navigate away, even when I navigate to the next page, which is definitely a good thing in my opinion. Okay, and then we went to the local data interface. So that worked, there was no issue with that. And then if you guys remember, it's going to take me to the interface. I want to go to the actual implementation. If you guys remember, all this does is sees to see if it's in memory. In this case it wasn't, so we're going to get null. And then we set that equal to the result. So the result is null. It is null because that's what we got from the search movie. And then that runs the remote data interface search movie, which is what we expected. And then finally we got an error because we expected a value of type int but got one of type string. And that was in search movie here. And that would have been in the from JSON over here. Okay. This might be a little bit of a headache to debug, because I remember the from JSON was it's not so long. So we expected a value of type int but got one of type string. Where? I do not see any ints. Or is one of these an int total results? I see. Total results here as int. So I'm just going to change this to as string. And do this and say int.parse. But really I would have expected the JSON total result to be recognized as an int, so I'm not sure why it didn't do that for me. Try again, see what happens. And now I get no output. In this case, no output is good because I'm not doing anything with it. The fact that I have no outputs means I don't have any errors, so that is a good thing here. But that does make me think we might get some errors with the rest of this, but we'll deal with that later. You might also be wondering why I bother saying add string. I could just remove this. The reason is because if you use a linter, something which checks for your code for, you know, the style of code you've written, then that would have been recognized. It would have told me to type it. I apparently do not have a linter in this application, in this project, but that's fine. I could put one later, but not right now. Okay, so going back to this, just Just double checking everything. So that was in search movie, and it just returns that search results. So now we should have the search results, and now we have search result of value equals results. So one thing I'm going to do here is just print that we got to the end, so we can see, yes, we can just see those values. Print search results is search result dot value dot title result. Total results is search results dot value dot total results. And if you guys don't remember why we're using this dot value here, that's because our search results is an RX search results. We did this so that we can make it an OBS, so that we can listen to the value in our other widgets. So I'm just going to save this and refresh. And now when I do this, we should see search result title of Star Wars, search result total results is 584. So that is working the way we intended. Okay, so what are we going to do with this? Let me just see the formats of my search results. We have a title, a page, total results, found, and a list of movie summaries. And if I'm not mistaken, each of these will have 10, this list will have 10 items per list, because that's how many the API gives back to me. So whatever. All right, cool. So back in my presentation, my screens, I'm going to add a new screen called, what should we call it? Something like initial results dot dot. That's a really bad name. Movie overview dot dot. Search results overview dot dot. I don't know. It's always difficult for me to come up with names, but I'll just use that. Search results overview dot dot, and here I'm going to return a scaffold because it is complete page, and I want to see my home screen for a second. I'm just seeing how I formatted this because I want it to be a little bit similar. I'm going to make this big. I don't need to see what's on the other side because I want my pages to look the same. I don't think my page looks very good, but I do want it to look the same as the other one. So I'm going to give this a body of container, height double dot infinity, width double dot infinity. That decoration is going to be the same one, BG gradient, which I need to import. And then the child is going to be a list view builder, because what I'm going to do is take the results and make a different style for each one. So it's going to be a list view dot builder, and this is going to take items. What does it take actually? It takes a builder, doesn't it? Item builder. And the item builder is a function which has a build context, which we won't use. And int here is going to be the index. And before this, we also need reverse, I don't need scroll direction, vertical correct, scroll controller, don't need bool primary, don't need shrink wrap false, correct, padding, item stance, could give it a padding, item count is going to be final search controller search controller equals get.find search controller, like this. Import this. And now we can use search controller dot search results dot value dot movie summaries dot length. Wow, that is a mouthful. That is a long variable, but it is what it is. And then we're going to return a movie summary tile, which of course doesn't exist yet. And this will take a movie summary of search controller dot search results dot value dot movie summaries. I was wondering why it's not auto suggesting it to me. Summaries end here, right? And I don't need this open anymore. So the list view builder should be wrapped either in an OBX or a get builder. Normally when working with lists, I prefer to use OBXs, get builders. But in this case, I think it's okay if I just wrap it in a get builder, in an OBX. I'm confusing those two a lot today. So that should work. And now I'm gonna make a new file, and I'm gonna put that in widgets, which doesn't exist yet, and movie summary tile dot dot, just like that. IMPM STL movie summary tile, just so it exists, so that I can import this. And this is going to take a final movie summary, and this one I'm going to pass in the constructor. So of course you guys know that I could use get.put, get.find, but it just doesn't make sense here, right? Like for things like these search controllers, it's great because I'm using it in different places, right? I'm using it in the search results overview. I'm also using it in my home screen, which I've closed apparently. I'm also using it in my home screen. I'm also going to use it in the other pages I have, and passing it from my home screen into my search results, into whatever else, is just a headache. It really is. So using get.find is going to help a lot in this particular situation. But in this case, where the movie summary tiles each only need one movie summary, it makes sense to just pass in that object manually the old way. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is just return a card, and let's give my card a padding. It has padding, right? I forget what it has. Shadow color, elevation, give it a color of colors.white. Do we have my colors in this app? Okay. That primary and pale primary BG. Alright, cool. So I don't have white, so I use colors.white. And elevation, let's give an elevation of 10, for example. Shadow color, oh, that's fine. Give it a small shadow color of colors.gray. Gray 300, so it's not too dark. A shape border, that's fine. I don't want to see that yet. Clip behavior, child. Child will be a container. The container, in fact, I want to give my card a padding, so I'm wrapping padding all 8 How about symmetric? Horizontal, let's give it horizontal of 10 and the vertical of 5. The reason I'm giving the vertical half of the horizontal is because, of course, these will be one after the other, right? So I'm going to get one card, then the second card, then the third card in a column. So it's going to have the vertical padding from the card on top and also from the card below. So to make it the same, therefore I have to make it a half. And as a result, because I'm doing that, I'm also going to need to wrap my list view builder in wrap my OBX in a padding of const symmetric, and we're going to give it a vertical of 5. So this way the top item and the bottom item will also have that same padding, like that. Okay, the reason I wrap my padding around my OBX, not my list view builder, is because OBX can be a little fussy when it comes to what it's wrapped around. It's quite normal for OBX to scream at me if it doesn't immediately find a search controller. It's going to tell me, why are you using me if I'm not listening to any value? So I just want to put it as close to my controller as I can. This way also my padding is not going to be rebuilt when the search result changes. Because when the search result changes, my list view, of course, is going to be rebuilt, but I don't want the padding to be rebuilt because that's going to be the same. Okay, so back to our tile. So it's going to have a container, which is also going to have a padding, and I'm going to give it edge inset of all. This is fine to be all. I'll give it 10 as well. And what should we give this? For now, let's just make this super simple, just so I can see that it's working correctly. And we'll just give it a title, and we can make it look nice afterwards, of course, of movie summary.title. And I'm actually curious what properties my movie summary has, because I cannot remember for the life of me. So it has a title, a year, IMDb ID, type, and poster URL. So what we're going to do then is have the post on one side and the title, the year. That's going to be pretty much it. It doesn't have any plot or anything. It doesn't. Okay, cool. Whatever. So let's try refreshing this. But it's not actually going to do anything. Let me quickly check the comments. Can you please explain the state management? Yes, Kuldeep. So I've made an entire module on the state management. Specifically, the one we're using in this one is GetX. If you go back to, I think it was module 4, I have a lot of videos about all the different state management solutions, and that does of course include GetX, also includes Block, and several others as well. Okay, so what was I doing? Yes, I was about to connect this because currently right here, when we're doing the on-press thing, we are searching for the movie, and that's going to load the new information into our search controller, but we're not actually going to the next page. So what we're going to do is, if I go to get, let's say pub.dev, get and get.to. So I do want to show you guys the documentation whenever I can, because I think it's good for you guys to get into the habit of, when you have a question, just go to the documentation, because this is where your answers normally are, except of course if you guys watched my live stream last time, the documentation of GetX has absolutely zero information about testing, and I am still absolutely just heartbroken, depressed about this. So if anybody has clout with the GetX creator, please ask him to have proper documentation about unit testing in GetX, because as far as I can figure out, it can't be done, and that makes me quite upset. Okay, let's look at this somewhere else, so not the counter app. Okay, route management. So this is the part we're looking at. And so another good thing about GetX is that it does simplify route management. Now, in my personal opinion, the route management is not, it's not simplified to such an extent that it's something I'm amazed by. With get.puts, get.find, it's something which is just so much simpler than any other alternative I've seen that I'm just 100% completely sold on it. I say definitely do it. It's amazing. But as far as the route management is concerned, it's like, it's okay, but it's not so much better that I'm just like blown away. You save some keystrokes, so that's great, but it's not so much. So what we can do is we can either use get.to with next screen like this, or we can have a name one, but if we have a name one, we would have to actually declare the named routes in a separate file. They have more information there. And for this particular one, I don't want to overcomplicate things. So I'm just going to say get.to, and then I haven't imported I only have the instance manager here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to delete this for a second. I'm actually going to cut it because now this is not going to be recognized. So now I can import the correct one, and I can import the route manager. Similarly, now I can put back my instance manager, fix the imports. The other thing you could do is just import get directly, and then you have everything imported. I am not doing that because in the previous video I was complaining a lot about the unit testing, so I'm just showing you guys how I will import it in the future, because I definitely will still be using this one, but I will not be using the state management. Okay, and then here we need to declare the screen, and in this case it's going to be the search results overview. And if I remember correctly, it doesn't take any parameters, and the reason it doesn't take any parameters is because it's getting all the information from the controller there, so we don't need to give it any parameters. Okay, so now let's test this. Star Wars, hit search, and did you guys see that? It crashed for a second, but then it worked. Now that was interesting. That was really interesting. So what's happening there? And I'm actually not 100% certain what the error was. Ah! There we go, gentlemen. Invalid member on null length. So let's see. What's happening is that we didn't await this, because it's not a it is async. I just didn't await it. So back to my home screen. Make this async. Helps if I can spell. So essentially what's happening is that it's getting to that search movie, and I'll move this off to the side for now. It's getting the search movie, right? And the search movie needs to await the results from the remote data interface, because this is a network call. Network calls do take a tiny bit of time, right? They're not instant. It doesn't just like boom, done. It's not like that, right? It's not. It does take a couple seconds, same as if you were to go to Facebook right now. It's not instant, unfortunately. I wish it was. And then in that time, I did get.to search results overview. So it loaded my search results overview, this page here, before my search results had anything on it. At the point of loading the search results overview, this search result was null, or at least the movie summaries was null. There was nothing there. And Flutter 2.0 is actually making this kind of error impossible, or more difficult to get to, I should say. And the fact that we used an OBX in our search result here is the reason why we got the error, but once that result did come through, it corrected it for me automatically. So let me restart this again, and now we should not get that behavior, search results, and now you saw it was a little bit delayed, and then after the delay, it actually went ahead and went to my next screen. So as a result, this time we didn't get the error anymore. Okay, and here we can see the results: title Star Wars, New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, and so on and so forth. So we can see that it is working. And okay guys, this is actually all I wanted to do in this video. I wanted to show you guys how we can connect all these different components, right? Because now we have our search controller, we had our interfaces, we had a remote data source, local data source, all that stuff. Very confusing, and this app isn't finished, first of all, because it doesn't look the way we want it to. But more importantly, there are still some things I want to show you guys. For example, currently, because I have to restart it, I'm not sure if it's getting the information from the local data source. So we do need to double check that thing. And what I'm going to do in the next one is the same way this has a search bar here. I'm going to put a search bar on the top over here, and I'm going to put a back button here, or maybe somewhere else, I don't know, and we'll make the entire thing look nicer. And yeah, but as far as the get stuff is concerned, this was the important stuff. This is how you connect everything. So at this point, actually, we've gone over absolutely everything, I believe, in the GetX ecosystem, at least the most important part of it. So as for making this app look nice, giving it an app bar which has the search result, the search bar, you guys already know how to do that. Actually, you do. So you could finish this app by yourself. Now, eventually I will help you guys out, but you already know everything you need to complete this app. So that is absolutely amazing. Okay, let me just check if there are any more comments before we finish. Yeah, so Gin Business says get to your name. We can do that as well. There are a few different ones. And also Meshcat says, hey, you back again? And I am again. And Meshcat, I would send you a heart face as well if I had my video on, but I don't, so there's that. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care, guys. Bye.